Are you blind? The sound of ripping fabric sliced through the soft hum of the five-star restaurant like a knife. Heads turned. Champagne glasses paused midair. And standing in the center of the marble-floored dining hall was Vanessa Cole, fashion influencer, socialite, and girlfriend of one of the youngest CEOs in the city. Her diamond bracelet glimmered as she yanked her silk evening dress upward in frustration. "Look at what you did to my dress," she snapped. In front of her stood a young woman in a simple black uniform, holding a silver tray that now lay tilted on the floor. A splash of sparkling water glistened near Vanessa's heels. I'm so sorry, ma'am," the waitress stammered, lowering her eyes. "It was an accident." "An accident?" Vanessa laughed sharply. "Do you even know how much this dress costs?" The restaurant manager hurried over, whispering apologies. But Vanessa wasn't finished. She looked down at the hem of her gown, then at the waitress. And something in her expression changed, not pain, not anger. Superiority. "You know what?" Vanessa said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. "This whole place is ridiculous. I should have known better than to come somewhere that hires people who can't even carry a tray properly." The waitress looked mortified. The room felt smaller. Then Vanessa did something no one expected. With dramatic exaggeration, she grabbed the side seam of her already damp silk dress and tore it. The sound was violent. Fabric ripped from thigh to hip. Gasps echoed. "There," she said, tossing the torn fabric toward the floor. "It's ruined anyway." Silence. Even the pianist stopped playing. The waitress looked as though she might cry. And at that exact moment, the restaurant doors opened. Daniel Royce walked in. Tall. Impeccable suit. Calm presence that filled the room without effort. CEO of Royce Holdings. Self-made millionaire at 32. And Vanessa's fiancé. He had arrived late from a board meeting, phone still in hand. He didn't see the spilled water. He didn't see the manager. He saw one thing. Vanessa. Standing over a trembling waitress. Holding torn silk in her hand. And everyone staring. Daniel's expression didn't change, but his steps slowed. Vanessa noticed him instantly. Her entire demeanor shifted. "Babe," she called sweetly, rushing toward him, careful to hold the torn part of her dress like a victim displaying evidence. "You won't believe what just happened." Daniel glanced past her at the waitress. Then at the tear. Then at the water. "What happened?" he asked quietly. "This clumsy girl spilled water all over me," Vanessa said, lowering her voice but not enough. "I had to tear the dress because it was ruined." The waitress tried to speak. "Sir, Vanessa cut her off. "It's fine." She already apologized. Daniel studied the scene. He bent down, picked up the silver tray and handed it gently back to the waitress. "Are you all right?" he asked her. The room froze. Vanessa blinked. The waitress nodded nervously. "Yes, sir." Daniel stood up straight. His voice was still calm. "How much was the dress?" Vanessa scoffed. $8,000. Limited edition. He nodded once. Then he turned to the manager. "Bring me the incident report footage," he said evenly. "Now." Vanessa's smile faltered. "It's not that serious, Daniel," she laughed lightly. "It was just an accident." "I agree," Daniel replied. His eyes met hers. "But I'd like to know whose." A ripple of unease passed through the room. The manager rushed off. Vanessa shifted. "Daniel, please. Don't embarrass me." He looked at her, not angry, just observing. "I'm not the one who tore a dress in the middle of dinner," he said quietly. The pianist still hadn't resumed playing. The manager returned with a tablet. Daniel watched the footage, frame by frame. And as he watched, the room grew colder. Because the video showed something very clear. The waitress hadn't spilled the water. Vanessa had knocked the tray with her elbow while scrolling her phone. The waitress had actually tried to save it. But Vanessa had jerked away, and then paused, looked down, and made a decision. She tore the dress on purpose. Daniel handed the tablet back without a word. Vanessa's voice trembled slightly. "It doesn't show the angle correctly." "It shows enough," Daniel replied. The silence was unbearable now. He turned to the waitress. "I'm sorry," he said sincerely. The waitress blinked in disbelief. Daniel reached into his jacket, pulled out a checkbook and wrote something quickly. He handed it to her. Her eyes widened. $10,000. "For the distress," he said calmly. "And for having to stand here while someone else tried to make you feel small." Vanessa felt the room shift against her. "Daniel," she whispered sharply, "what are you doing?" He looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time that evening, there was no warmth in his eyes. Learning, he said softly. And that was the moment she realized something terrifying. This wasn't about the dress anymore. It was about who she truly was. And Daniel had just seen it. Vanessa felt it before she fully understood it. The shift. The invisible current moving through the room. A few minutes ago, she had been the center of attention, the glamorous fiancé in designer silk. Now the attention felt different. Heavier. Watching. Judging. Daniel's calm voice still echoed in her ears. I'm sorry. Not to her. To the waitress. The manager cleared his throat. Sir, we can comp your meal tonight. Please allow us to make this right. Daniel gave a polite nod. That won't be necessary. Vanessa forced a tight laugh. Exactly. This is all blown out of proportion. But Daniel didn't laugh. Instead, he turned slightly toward her. Let's sit. They moved to their private table near the window. The view overlooked the city skyline, glowing gold under the evening lights. Vanessa adjusted the torn fabric of her dress, trying to maintain dignity. I don't understand why you embarrassed me like that. Daniel folded his hands calmly. Embarrassed you? Yes. In front of everyone. He tilted his head slightly. You tore your own dress in front of everyone. Her jaw tightened. Because it was ruined. The footage shows otherwise. Vanessa leaned forward, lowering her voice. Daniel, she's a waitress. I'm your fiancé. Why are you defending her? There it was. The sentence that made something inside him settle. Not break. Settle. He studied her expression carefully. There was no regret there. No shame. Only frustration at losing control of the narrative. She's a person, he said quietly. Vanessa rolled her eyes slightly. Don't start with that moral lecture. You know how these places are. Staff make mistakes. It happens. True, Daniel replied. It does. He paused. But tonight, the only mistake I saw wasn't hers. The words hung between them like smoke. Vanessa sat back, crossing her arms. So what? You're going to end our engagement over a dress. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He looked past her at the waitress, who was now back at work trying to smile through embarrassment. You know, he said softly, I grew up watching my mother clean tables just like that. Vanessa blinked. She worked double shifts so I could go to school. I remember people snapping their fingers at her, calling her girl, acting like she didn't exist. His voice never rose, but it carried weight. And tonight, he continued, I watched you do something similar. Vanessa scoffed. Oh please. Don't compare me to strangers in your childhood stories. That sentence. That tone. That dismissal. Daniel's eyes changed. Not anger. Clarity. You're right, he said calmly. I shouldn't compare you. For a second, Vanessa thought she had won. Then he continued. Because the strangers didn't know better. The air seemed to thin. Vanessa leaned forward again, this time urgency creeping into her voice. Daniel, you're being dramatic. I had a bad moment. That's it. People lose their temper. Yes, he agreed. They do. And who we are shows in those moments. She swallowed. Around them, the restaurant had returned to its soft hum, but the tension at their table felt isolated. Intense. Daniel, she softened her tone. We're supposed to be celebrating tonight. Your new merger deal. Our future. He nodded slightly. Exactly. That one word unsettled her more than shouting would have. Do you remember what you told me when we first met? He asked. Vanessa hesitated. Of course. You said you loved that I was self-made. Yes. That I didn't come from privilege. Yes. That I respected hard work. She smiled faintly. I still do. Daniel leaned in slightly. Do you? The question was simple. But it cracked something. Vanessa opened her mouth, then closed it. She thought about the video. About the deliberate tear. About the way she had enjoyed the attention for just a second too long. I was upset, she said finally. Daniel nodded slowly. I know. He reached into his pocket. Vanessa's eyes flickered with hope. Maybe he was pulling out the ring. Maybe this was the moment he reassured her. Instead, he placed something else on the table. The restaurant receipt. With one line circled. Compensation for staff distress, declined. He looked at her steadily. I don't want a partner who sees people as background characters. Her heart began to pound. Daniel, you can't mean that. I need to know something, he said quietly. If I wasn't who I am, if I lost everything tomorrow, would you still stand next to me? The question wasn't about money. She knew that. And for the first time that night, she didn't have a quick answer. Daniel watched her silence stretch. And silence can be louder than words. He stood slowly. Vanessa's breath caught. Where are you going? He adjusted his jacket. To think. Daniel. I'm not ending anything tonight, he said calmly. But I'm not ignoring what I saw either. Her hands trembled slightly. This is ridiculous, she whispered. Maybe, he replied. But character is revealed when no one expects it. He stepped away from the table. The waitress looked up briefly as he passed. Daniel paused beside her. Thank you for handling that with grace, he said softly. She nodded, stunned. Vanessa watched it all. And something cold crept into her chest. Because this wasn't a fight. It wasn't a shouting match. It was worse. It was disappointment. And she knew something instinctively. Daniel Royce didn't tolerate disappointment easily. As he walked toward the exit, the restaurant doors opened again, this time letting in a cool night breeze. Vanessa sat alone at the table, her torn silk pooling around her chair. The engagement ring suddenly feeling heavier than it ever had before. And for the first time since she met him, she wasn't sure she was the woman he thought she was. Vanessa didn't go home that night. She sat in her car outside Daniel's penthouse building for nearly 40 minutes, staring at the top floor lights. They stayed on, which meant he was awake, which meant he was thinking. And that terrified her more than anything. Daniel wasn't impulsive. He didn't make emotional decisions. When he went quiet, it meant he was calculating, reevaluating. She checked her phone. No messages. No calls. Not even a drive safe. Her stomach twisted. Finally, she stepped out of the car, adjusted her coat to hide the torn dress underneath, and walked into the building. The concierge greeted her warmly, but she barely registered it. The elevator ride felt longer than usual. When the doors opened, she found Daniel standing by the window, city lights reflecting off the glass behind him. He didn't turn immediately. I thought you went home, he said calmly. This is home, she replied softly. That made him glance back. Vanessa stepped forward. Daniel, I've been thinking. So have I. She swallowed. I was wrong. The words felt foreign in her mouth. He studied her carefully. About? About tonight. I shouldn't have reacted like that. It was immature. Why did you react like that? He asked. The question caught her off guard. I told you. I was embarrassed. No, he said gently. Why were you embarrassed? Vanessa hesitated. Because the honest answer wasn't flattering. I didn't like being the one who looked foolish, she admitted. Daniel nodded slowly. That's honest. She took a cautious step closer. People expect me to look perfect. To act perfect. I panicked. And tearing your dress fixed that? Her silence answered for her. Daniel walked to the kitchen counter and poured himself a glass of water. I have a meeting tomorrow, he said casually. With who? A potential investor. Vanessa forced a smile. That's good. He turned to her. It's not a big one. Something in his tone made her pause. What do you mean? He leaned against the counter. It's a small deal. Actually, I've been considering pulling out of the larger merger. Her heart skipped. The merger? She repeated. Yes. But that's worth millions. I know. Why would you pull out? Daniel shrugged slightly. Sometimes growth isn't about expansion. Sometimes it's about simplification. Vanessa's mind started racing. Simplification? That wasn't how he talked about business before. Daniel, she said carefully, is this about tonight? Partly. Her throat tightened. You can't make financial decisions based on emotions. He gave a faint smile. Who said it's emotional? The room felt unsteady. What are you saying? She asked. Daniel walked past her and picked up a folder from his desk. He placed it on the table between them. She looked down. Financial summaries. Asset reports. Investment breakdowns. But something was off. The numbers were smaller. Much smaller. What is this? She whispered. Daniel met her eyes. A projection. For a scenario where I lose the merger. Where I scale down. Where Royce Holdings shrinks significantly. Vanessa stared at the figures. No more private jet leases. No more luxury event sponsorships. No more international expansions. Still wealthy. But not extravagant. Why would that happen? She asked. Markets change, he said calmly. Deals fall through. Investors withdraw. Are they withdrawing? He held her gaze. I don't know yet. That uncertainty landed like a punch. Vanessa's mind flooded with images. The influencer events. The high society galas. the lifestyle she had grown used to. What does this mean for us? She asked carefully. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he asked another question. If I wasn't expanding, if I wasn't growing, if I became just comfortable instead of powerful, would that change anything for you? There was again the test. But this time it felt heavier. Of course not, she said quickly. Are you sure? Yes. Completely? She hesitated just for a second. But Daniel noticed. And that second stretched into something irreversible. I love you, she insisted. I believe you care about me, he said gently. That's not the same as love, she snapped. It depends on why you care. The words hit harder than shouting ever could. Vanessa stepped back, feeling exposed. Are you trying to trap me? She asked. I'm trying to understand you. He walked toward the window again. You said tonight was a bad moment, he continued. Maybe it was. But sometimes bad moments reveal patterns. She felt defensive heat rise in her chest. So now I'm a villain because I lost my temper once? No, Daniel replied. You're human. Then what do you want from me? He turned. I want to know if you would still respect me without the spotlight. The question pierced deeper than the financial documents, because that was the real issue. Spotlight, status, power. Vanessa had built her identity around being seen, being admired, being envied, and Daniel amplified that. She walked slowly to the table and closed the folder. I need time, she said quietly. To think? Yes. He nodded. Take it. The simplicity of his response unsettled her again. He wasn't chasing reassurance. He wasn't begging. He was observing. And somewhere deep down, Vanessa realized something terrifying. He might already have his answer. As she walked toward the bedroom, she stopped. Daniel? Yes. If the merger doesn't go through, will people know? He didn't hesitate. Yes. Her shoulders stiffened. And if it does? They'll know that too. She nodded slowly and disappeared down the hallway. Daniel stood alone in the living room. His face calm. But his mind sharp. Because there was something Vanessa didn't know. The merger wasn't failing. The investors weren't withdrawing. The projections were real, but hypothetical. He wasn't testing the market. He was testing her. And tomorrow would determine everything. The next morning, Vanessa awoke with a heaviness she couldn't shake. The torn dress. The ruined evening. Daniel's quiet, measured words. For the first time in years, she questioned herself. She hadn't just embarrassed herself. She had revealed her priorities, her reflexes, the way she responded when she thought she was losing control. Downstairs, Daniel was already in the kitchen, reviewing his schedule. Coffee in hand, calm as the ocean. Vanessa paused at the top of the staircase, torn between approaching him and retreating. Finally, she descended. Daniel, she said softly. He looked up. Warm smile. Calm eyes. Nothing betrayed the intensity of the previous night. Good morning, he said. She closed the distance. I've been thinking. He tilted his head. About last night? Yes. About me. About us. Daniel set his coffee aside. Go on. Vanessa swallowed. I realized I focused so much on appearances, on being admired. I didn't even see her, the waitress, as a person. And I think that scares me now, realizing I didn't stand by the person who deserves respect. I want to do better. Daniel's gaze softened. Do you mean it? She nodded, eyes wide. Completely. I want to understand what really matters. Not the dress. Not the attention. Not the luxury. I want to respect the people who deserve it. He smiled faintly. Good. That's a start. A beat passed. Then he gestured toward the living room. Come with me. Confused, she followed him. He stopped at the window and pointed toward the city. Last night, I didn't just see a torn dress. I saw priorities. I saw reflexes. And I realized you're capable of growth. But only if you choose it. Vanessa's heart raced. I understand. Daniel reached into his jacket. Vanessa expected the engagement ring. Instead, he held a tablet. He tapped it. The restaurant footage from last night appeared. The sequence of events. Frame by frame. Vanessa froze. The moment your elbow hit the tray, he said softly, you had a choice. And then you made another. Her eyes welled with tears. She looked away. I was wrong. I admit it. Daniel handed her the tablet. Then show me the real you. Not the version who's always under the spotlight. Show me the version who stands by people without needing applause. She took a deep breath. I will. He nodded. Good. Then he swiped the screen. New footage appeared. The waitress, smiling quietly, picking up the tray with grace, showing professionalism despite humiliation. Notice, Daniel said. Even in the smallest moments, character is revealed. Vanessa's hand shook. I see it now. I can't believe I acted that way. Daniel leaned closer. It's not too late to change. She swallowed hard. I want to. I promise. For the first time, Daniel looked at her not as a fiancé or social partner, but as a human being capable of transformation. He gestured toward the window. Tomorrow we host a charity gala. You'll be there but not as the socialite. As the ambassador. Your role will be to honor the staff, the volunteers, the people who often go unnoticed. Vanessa blinked. Me? Really? Yes. Because the world doesn't need more admiration. It needs respect. And tonight, you learned something important. Respect is earned in the quiet moments. Tears rolled down Vanessa's cheeks. She nodded. I understand. Thank you for showing me. Daniel smiled, the tension finally melting. Good. Now, let's start fresh. The next evening, Vanessa arrived at the gala. Gone was the silk gown of vanity. In its place, a simple, elegant dress that allowed her to move freely, and to engage with every person she met with humility and kindness. The media snapped photos expecting scandal, expecting arrogance. Instead, they captured something far more powerful. Vanessa laughing genuinely with the staff, offering compliments, shaking hands, and acknowledging the people who made the night possible. Daniel watched from across the room. Calm, proud, observant. The waitress from the restaurant, now a volunteer coordinator at the gala, walked up to Vanessa. Thank you, she said softly, for noticing us. Vanessa smiled. No, thank you. For showing me what grace really looks like. Across the room, Daniel caught Vanessa's gaze. The moment was subtle, yet unmistakable. She had learned. She had grown. And he had seen her truly for the first time. Because real character isn't proven in private. It's revealed in public. And tonight, everyone in the room, from the staff to the guests, could feel it. Vanessa's hand found Daniel's. He squeezed it gently. Pride isn't measured by wealth, he whispered. It's measured by humility. Tonight, you passed. A soft cheer arose as the charity auction began. But for Vanessa, nothing mattered more than the silent approval in Daniel's eyes. For the first time, she realized that being truly admired wasn't about glittering gowns or stolen attention. It was about respect. And that night she earned it.